Alright, today we are going to dig a little bit deeper into the characters we met in Chapter 1 of The Outsiders. What you should have in front of you is this photocopy of some of the pages or selected passages from the first chapter of the novel. Let's begin. The first thing we're going to want to do, since we're working with this text, is number the paragraphs on the handout and then go ahead and write the total number on top. Now I'm modeling here, so whatever I do to my handout, you should be doing to yours. As we number the paragraphs, remember we're looking for indentations. First page is pretty easy. There's a first paragraph, a second paragraph. We see where it's indented to indicate the start of a new paragraph. And the third paragraph continues pretty simply in the same way. There's paragraph 3. However, now we get lots. Paragraph 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You can see there's a lot of paragraphs in this passage because there's a lot of dialogue. Paragraph 12, paragraph 13, and 14. The lesson here is to always look for the indentation. In literature, paragraphs can be as short as 2 words long. It just indicates where a new paragraph begins with an indentation. There is no rule that a paragraph has to be a certain number of words long. Continue on numbering. Right now you can see I remembered that paragraph should be paragraph 14. Continue on until you're finished and see what you end up with. What you should have when you get to page 12 and our last paragraph, tough and tough are 2 different words, that should end up being your 31st paragraph. If you didn't end up at 31, check with a neighbor who did and see where you maybe missed something or made a mistake. Go ahead and check right now. Once you've numbered your paragraphs, the next thing we're going to do is make a key or legend to keep track of the characters that we're being introduced to. We want to use a different colored pencil for each of the 7 characters, and there are 7 characters in this group. There's Derry, or Daryl Curtis, Ponyboy's older brother, Soda Pop Curtis, Ponyboy's second oldest brother, Steve Randall, Two-Bit Matthews, Dallas Winston, Johnny Cade, and of course our narrator, Ponyboy Curtis. You can see for my key or legend, I've decided to make Derry blue, Soda Pop brown, Steve green, Two-Bit orange, Dallas pink, Johnny red, and Ponyboy purple. You don't have to use those colors, but they do need to be 7 different colors so your markings can be kept straight. Once you've decided on your colors, go ahead and put that legend at the top of page 2. And you can see I've done that here. There's a nice empty space before the text begins where I can create my legend for Derry, Soda Pop, Steve, Two-Bit, Dally, Johnny, and Ponyboy. You may also notice I've got my total number of paragraphs listed in the upper left-hand corner. Make sure to put your key or legend here as well with the 7 colors you have chosen. Now that your legend is done, we're going to go ahead and start marking up our text. We're going to circle character names and underline descriptions of each character in the same color. Now as we do this, we want to be picky. We don't want to underline whole paragraphs or pages. We're looking for key items, key phrases that most strongly tell us about each character. If you notice in paragraph 2, we see this passage here about Derry. Now notice I've circled his name. That's what signaled to me that this passage was about him. And here our narrator Ponyboy talks about Derry and says, Derry would kill me if I got into trouble with the police. Again, that's Ponyboy talking about what Derry would do to him. Once I've circled and underlined, then I want to do some inferencing. I'm going to summarize each character in the margins using the following writing frame. Character, seems, trait, because. So I'm going to mention the character. I'm going to infer what trait that seems to reveal, and I'm going to explain how I made that inference. So in the margin here to the right, where I've circled and underlined, Derry would kill me if I got into trouble with the police, I infer that Derry seems strict because Ponyboy says he'd be killed if he got into trouble. Now I know that he's exaggerating. I don't believe that Derry would really kill him, but I know that's the kind of things a kid would say about his or her parent. Mom and Dad would kill me. Ponyboy is saying this about his brother Derry, who's charged with taking care of him since his mom and dad have been killed in an auto wreck. Because he says Derry would kill him, that makes me think Derry seems like a strict parent or a strict caregiver. Go ahead and make sure you have this passage highlighted and that you too have written this inference in the margin. If I do it on my text, you do it on yours. Again, summarizing characters in the margins. Paragraph 3, we learn a lot about what Derry looks like. Derry, name circled again. Notice I'm underlining passages or phrases. 6'2", broad-shouldered and muscular, dark brown hair that kicks out in front and a slight cowlick in the back, eyes that are like two pieces of pale blue-green ice. Now that I've identified that, I'm going to make an inference. I'm going to focus in on this passage where Ponyboy describes his eyes. Derry seems uncaring or cold because his eyes are described as ice. I find that very interesting. There are many things that could be described as blue, but Ponyboy chooses ice. I think that hints at someone who seems to be cold or maybe even mean. He has an icy stare. That's the inference I'm making when I see that passage. Again, make sure you've got the same thing highlighted in your third paragraph, and go ahead and copy down my inference in that left margin, or come up with an inference of your own. For the pages that remain, you're just going to continue that process. Look for a character's name, circle it in the appropriate color when you see it, underline phrases and sentences that describe something about that character, and then lastly, write your inference in the margin to explain what you believe these descriptions tell you about that character. You get this done for all 7 characters, and you will have a very good idea about what makes each of these characters a little bit different, even though they're all members of the same gang. Good luck.